Wow, a star is born. Shakur Stevenson dominates Jamel Herring. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Listen, I don't know how you found my video, but somehow, some way, you made it. Please help others arrive at the content by hitting the like button. It goes a long way. It's very simple, it's painless, it's free. Shakur Stevenson dominates Jamel Herring and gets a late stoppage in the fight. This was Shakur Stevenson's coming out party. Now, let's start from the top. Shakur Stevenson really, truly impressed me with the fight. Now, I knew the kid was skilled in my estimations before the fight. I knew that he could win, but I thought he would have to be, just like he showed, have a tight defense. And I thought at best Jamel Herring would be able to win some rounds and test Shakur. I didn't get to see that tonight. I don't think Shakur Stevenson was ever out of his element, and it was a complete whitewash and domination. To me, Shakur won by a landslide. You could possibly give him every single round. Shakur has proven to be a superb talent. You got to start really putting him on the top 10 pound for pound list based on him in the situation. This is his second division. He moved up. He's been calling for the big fights. This was an opportunity that presented itself first against Jamel Herring, a guy who was bigger than him, a guy who has fought Shakur Stevenson on some level, at least in sparring. And when you spar some guys so many times, you pick up little quirks. Like, for example, Danny Jacobs versus Sergey Derevyanchenko, when they fought as pros, they seemed to be each other's equal because they had 400,000 rounds of sparring, so they knew each other very well. This is not what I've seen. I don't know how many times Shakur and Jamel have sparred in the past, but it was clear that Shakur Stevenson was a student of the game, and he had Jamel Herring's number. Very dominant stuff to see Shakur Stevenson. This is the performance that people wanted out of him. Now, in my opinion, I believe Shakur's last two fights, it left a little bit more to be desired. That's just being 100% honest. This was the type of stuff that people were expecting because he fought guys like Tokakon Clary and that African dude, Nakathila, and no one really even heard of those guys, and their styles at least proved to be pretty difficult. In the Blood, Sweat, and Tears show, Shakur Stevenson said that his last opponent, the African Nakathila dude, he said he had some cracks and he was awkward. So, he just systematically won every round, but people judged him heavily on that. Me, I don't particularly judge people off of one particular fight, but I just felt that he was gonna have to put it all together for a performance with Jamel Herring, and that is exactly what Shakur Stevenson did. He took all his talent, all his Olympic experience, the silver medalist, and he tied it all together. And this is definitely my favorite performance from Shakur Stevenson. I think the dangerous thing about Shakur Stevenson is there's a couple things. For one, I went to his fight in Reno versus Joet Gonzalez. We later seen Joet Gonzalez go to war with Navarrete. Shakur beat him pretty handily. In my opinion, Shakur might have even pulled back on that particular fight because he had a relationship with Joet Gonzalez's sister and knew the family. So I was always wondering if he held back a little bit because he started off real sharp and then he didn't really go for the kill. This fight with Jamel Herring, much different. It really felt like he had something to prove, despite that his camp and him as a person is real close with Terrence Crawford, and he spent a lot of time in the Olympic Training Center in Colorado, kicked it with the people, they have their circles are very close, and he's in one camp, he's with Bomac and Terrence Crawford and Jamel Herring, and then the next he's going against him. Shakur, he came out like he had something to prove. He was a spark plug. I think Shakur Stevenson, it was a superb performance. It's not really much to break down. I can break down scientifically what he was doing, but in terms of back and forth action, I think Jamel Herring, he was just taken out of his game early. So what I like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is Shakur Stevenson, he passed the test with flying colors. I really like Shakur's game plan. He was fighting a southpaw who was bigger, a guy with some good sneaky counters, namely his left hand, straight left, uppercut, things like that. Guy with the performance versus Carl Frampton. He stopped him in Dubai, and he said he likes the role as an underdog. They also had experience, as I mentioned earlier in this video, sparring each other. Shakur took that play away from Jamel Herring very early. I mean, he came out authoritative. He came out aggressive. That is exactly how you want to fight a southpaw as an orthodox fighter. Is you can't be afraid to go in the wheelhouse a little bit. It's like Andre Ward said to Caleb Plant versus Canelo. He says that Caleb should go in there and try to rattle the cage. And that's exactly what Shakur Stevenson did with the southpaw. It really put me in the mindset of Floyd Mayweather. And I don't use that lightly, but Floyd Mayweather, if you look at his fights when he fights southpaws that are good, like Zab Judah, Manny Pacquiao, etc., DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley, when he fights those good, powerful, strong southpaws, Floyd Mayweather, one thing he does is he's aggressive. You look at the first Pacquiao fight, or the only Mayweather and Pacquiao fight, the first round, Mayweather came out and bombed on Pacquiao with a huge right. Shakur Stevenson stepped in and asserted himself very fast into this fight, and his hand speed was blazing fast, and he just put it all together. And I don't really feel like Jamel Herring was truthfully in the fight. There were moments where he showed heart. He's a Marine. You know, you got to give him credit for being a veteran. He's done his tours and served this country, and he was just outgunned, outsmarted, outmatched, and Shakur proved to be too much. So again, the most complete performance against the best name for Shakur Stevenson, and some fighters are like that. The cream always rises to the top, and Shakur Stevenson shut up critics who ragged on his last performance, said he was boring. You can't really do any of that here. You can't say he was boring. He did everything he was supposed to do. You can't say he was hurt. You know, I know especially black fighters, like when Devin Haney got clipped at the end of a dominant performance with Jorge Linares, that's all people talked about. There were really no moments like that where Jamel Herring was this super live dog. I think Jamel Herring was freezing up when Shakur Stevenson was blasting him with combinations. Shakur Stevenson's jab was a piston jab, and that really served him well. Just basic fundamentals, getting his foot in position. He didn't run. He was right in front of Jamel Herring. He was very fluid with his combinations. One thing I like from him being such a young fighter is he did not headhunt. Some young fighters, they want the highlight reel knockouts and stuff, but Shakur did not abandon an attack to the body. He did not forget about the body attack. So he was landing some surgical headshots and great jabs, but he also had very subtle body shots that were, I think, zapping a lot of energy out of Jamel Herring as the fight wore on. And I think that really took its toll. Now, one thing I noticed too about this dominant performance from Shakur Stevenson, I feel like Shakur Stevenson systematically broke his man's spirit before he broke him down physically. And that's hard to bounce back from. Nothing is impossible in the sport of boxing, but this is a hard loss to come back from because I think he was completely taken out of his element. Again, Shakur Stevenson, people worry about punching power and stuff. There's guys, I think Shakur has respectable power. You know, people have always questioned his power and stuff like that, but he spiritually broke the man down with great fundamentals, and his style and his aggression and the fluidity of his punches, hand speed was crispy. He just looked real crispy. And I think Jamel Herring, there were moments where he was like petitioning to the ref and claiming rabid punches, and it looked like his head wasn't even in the fight, like he was getting flustered or frustrated or something because of Shakur. And that's a testament to Shakur Stevenson's approach, his game plan, and his confidence. Everything Shakur said he was going to do before the fight, he basically did in the fight. So you got to give credit to a man who sets the standard and you know, walks that line like Johnny Cash. So I loved it. I think it was superb. Masterclass boxing by Shakur Stevenson. He definitely put the game on notice, the 130-pound division, pound for pound list. He put everybody on notice. I want to say Oscar Valdez, I know he had the situation with the phentermine and the tea and stuff. He's going to have to sip a lot of tea, but that's the next fight that definitely needs to happen. Shakur looked great. There's no reason why both guys are with Top Rank. Shakur has called him out since featherweight. He's called him out at 130. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to get that fight in 2022. Hopefully, Shakur could rest up. Oscar Valdez, he didn't really get suspended for failing a test, which is a whole nother video. But I got to see that. I think that's a fight I got to see. You got two Olympians. Oscar Valdez is a two-peat Olympian. Not coming off the greatest performance, but yet and still, he's still a champion. It's a unification. He has power. They both have heart. And the way Shakur, I mean, there's no way I could pick Oscar Valdez in that fight. But stylistically, it's a great fight because Oscar Valdez, he does have heart and he does have power. And he has a lot of experience. And he's been a champion, you know, maybe longer than Shakur Stevenson. But there's a reason I think Canelo's gym and Eddie Reynoso and Oscar Valdez and Top Rank hasn't pushed for that fight, MBF, you know? And I think based on the performance, Shakur's going to want that. And he probably called him out. I didn't really hear a post-fight interview, but he probably would call him out because he's been calling him out. And we need to see it. Last time they were in a division together, Valdez abandoned his belt and moved up in weight instead of fighting Shakur Stevenson. So we got to see that. The fans should demand that. Shakur, there's nothing you can say. You can't say he ran. You can't say he was boring. You can't say none of that. All you can do is say bravo. Let me know what you guys think. Shakur looked great. I'll break down this fight more. There's a lot of intricacies and subtleties that I've seen in the fight, but everything was just ring IQ, fundamentals, getting in positions, comfortability. Shakur he had everything dialed in, all the boxes he ticked. Jamel Herring, spirited effort. Ultimately, it wasn't good enough. And I seen Jamel was trying. He was trying to like change the rhythm and the cadence. Shakur Stevenson didn't really allow him to breathe, and he kept getting on the inside too easy. Jamel Herring, you know, he was valiant in his efforts, and he was trying to switch up the cadence and pace, but he was off to such a bad start, and I think the fight kept getting away from him more and more and more as the fight progressed, and he was not thinking maybe fully. He wasn't coming in with the jab, things like that. So great performance from Shakur. This is the performance that I think he needed, and he definitely delivered. If you like my video and the breakdown, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and I'm out. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.